a recommendation only to the county commissioners. I don't make the final decision. I will be submitting my recommendation to staff within 2 weeks of this evening's hearing. The application will then be scheduled for deliberation before the county commissioners. If you wish to give testimony, I need you to fill out one of the sheets in the back. And when you come to the podium, please remember to give your name and address for the record before you begin your testimony. First, staff will introduce the application. Then we will hear from the applicant. After the applicant's testimony, we will then get into public comment sheets. We will hear from those who are in favor, those who are neutral, and then those who are opposed. The public not speaking will be read into the record. We will then give the applicant or their representative an opportunity for rebuttal of any of the testimony presented into the record from the public before we close the public hearing. After that point, there will be no more testimony. The time limits are 30 minutes for the applicant's presentation, 3 minutes for public testimony, and 15 minutes for applicant's rebuttal. I would ask that you direct all of your testimony to me and not to the audience. Are there any questions about these proceedings? Looks like we don't have questions, so we will begin the public hearing for case number CUP24-0005.
Madam Hearing Examiner.
Yes.
If I may, I'm David Callahan, Community Development Director. I want to open up tonight because there was inadvertently some confusion created by our staff. When we first started processing this case, we sent out referrals to all of our referral agencies stating that the gas station and the underground storage tanks were all part of the CUP. That was an error on our part. In actual fact, the only thing in front of you tonight are the underground storage units, because that's the only thing the code allows us to process a conditional use permit for. So the presumption would be if the underground storage units were denied, the gas station wouldn't go in, even though it is a use allowed without further review in this particular zoning district. So I hope that helps clarify things. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm sure as we get into the public testimony, there will be people who will still want to speak, which we will hear. But I hope that clarifies things for those in the audience as well. Vlad?
Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. Before I get into the specifics of this request, I'd like to clarify that it was discovered earlier this week by you that there's a typo in the staff report with regards to the comp plan designation. The comp plan designation for the property is border. There's a typo in the applicable legal standards that alludes to it being suburban. That's inaccurate, and it will be addressed when staff writes a final order of decision, regardless of whether it's approval or denial. Okay. So now I'll get into the specifics of this request. Thank you, Director Callahan, for introducing this matter. This is solely a request for the storage of petroleum products in excess of 5,000 gallons. Pursuant to Kootenai County Land Use and Development Code, specifically light industrial standards for development, it states that any development of a property that would store more than 5,000 gallons of fuel will require a conditional use permit, regardless if there's any other use that's associated with it. The subject property is located in the on the west side of Kootenai County near the Washington and Idaho state line. It's located specifically north of Highway 53 and just east of High Prairie Road. The property is 5.2 acres in size. It is currently zoned light industrial. It's fairly level, however, it does have some slope towards the northwest corner of the property, but the area along the state highway is fairly level. As you can see, here you have the BNSF Railroad. You have quite a few light industrial uses to the south and east of the subject property. You have another gas station and convenience store due northeast, and then you have the city limits of City of Hauser further northeast. The current zoning in the area comprises of various designations. You have agriculture to the west, you have rural to the north and northwest, you have light industrial just directly to the north, you have commercial in the county to the northeast, and then you have city limits of City of Hauser. There are various uses in the area. Like I stated, you have a gas station here. I believe there are more commercial businesses further northeast. As I understand from the applicant's narrative, as well as doing a site visit, there's a light industrial business park to the south of Highway 53 and BNSF Railroad. The comp plan designation, as I stated, is border. However, it is adjacent to transitional due west. And the property is located within the City of Hauser area of city impact. Pursuant to Chapter 10 of Kootenai County Land Use and Development Code, the county is obligated to solicit comments from the city for an assessment and determination whether the city has any concerns that would impact their ability to regulate within their city limits, or any impacts that they would like for the county to address with a development going in within the area of city impact. As I stated, and as has been introduced by Director Callahan, the purpose of tonight's hearing is to solely address the impacts of establishing an underground fuel storage facility for petroleum products. In this case, I believe the applicants would like to have as much as 60,000 gallons of petroleum stored for a future gas station that would be constructed above grade. Should the conditional use permit for underground storage be approved, the applicant would like to construct a convenience store of around 6,000 square feet, as well as regular pumps and RV pumps. These are some photos of the subject property in question from various angles and location. During the agency comment period, we received quite a few comments from various departments. Most of the comments were relevant to the future development of the gas station. Only a couple were relevant to the proposed conditional use permit for underground storage. First one was DEQ, and the second one was Panhandle Health District. Panhandle Health District advised staff that they do not have the jurisdiction of the underground storage. I believe they only review above ground storage of fuel. When it comes to DEQ, DEQ does have the assessment of underground storage, as well as I think one of their comments was with regards to groundwater quality in terms of the possibility of contamination because the subject property is over the aquifer. And in some cases from previous projects, I know that they require containment areas to comply with state regulations in order to preclude or eliminate the possibility of having the groundwater being contaminated in case of leakage. During the public comment period, we received, I believe, a total of 67 comments. 45 of them were in opposition, 14 were in support, 45 in opposition, and 8 neutral. I'd like to point out that a majority, and I would say I can recall only 2 comments that were strictly related to the underground fuel storage facility. The remaining comments in opposition were relevant to the gas station, specifically concerns with regards to compatibility with surrounding residential neighborhood due west as well as north, concerns over traffic impacts, and depreciation of property values. The main issue that I was not very well informed by ITD on, and perhaps the applicant or maybe the project engineer could provide some clarification, is that there is anticipated improvements on Highway 53 at some point. And some folks alluded to having this project be assessed, not this project, the improvements associated with the gas station, not the CUP, be assessed at such time that the improvements are completed on Highway 53. Now, staff did not receive any information from ITD, Idaho Transportation Department, with regard to the improvements. I believe some improvements were done recently, but more improvements will be forthcoming. We didn't go into further detail or request additional information from ITD because they already granted an approach off of Highway 53. Now, that approach is about to expire, but in speaking with the applicant and understanding that in the past they were granted an extension, we don't foresee there being any reason for them not to receive another extension at some point in the future. And that is one of the conditions that we imposed, along with the others, for them to address should this conditional use permit be approved. So staff analysis, as I stated, the purpose of this request is to solely address the underground storage. Some of the jurisdictional agencies did provide comments associated with underground fuel storage, but the remaining were with the gas station. We find that so long as the applicant will comply with DEQ requirements, there should not be any concerns over safety or quality of water in terms of the possibility of leakage, because containment areas will be designed and installed according to state regulations. And we find that it's really hard to assess the compatibility concerns with underground storage. First of all, it's below ground. Second of all, there is another facility similar in nature just to the northeast, a gas station with underground storage of fuel as well. So we don't find that there is an issue with compatibility in that regard. When it comes to staff analysis, let me look into this. We believe that, first of all, I would like to point out, and Director Callahan did as well, a gas station is a by right use. And if I may add a little bit to the discussion, it is possible for the applicant to have a refueling station at this property if they were, and get building permits as of now, if they requested a reservoir or a storage tank of less than 5,000. So if they came in with a proposal to do 4,999 gallons on site, they could apply for building permits today and start construction. So I want to point that out. Now, with regards to the concerns in terms of traffic, access, water and sewer, and all the requirements that were proposed by agencies with jurisdiction, should this CUP be approved and the applicant applies for building permits as well as site disturbance, that's when our department will handle those requirements during the building permit stage. But majority of the conditions that we imposed, I would say pretty much all of them except for DEQ, are not directly relevant to the request before you tonight. So I stand for any questions that you have for me at this time.
I have none at this time. Thank you, Vlad. So we'll hear from the applicant, Ms. Kruger.
It always takes me a second to adjust to this little clicker here, but we'll give it a try. Okay. All right. My name is Connie Kruger, and I'm here representing the property owner, which is NNG LLC. We have our project team here with us today. So we have our traffic engineer, our civil engineer, and we have the property owner, and also our attorney. So I thought I would start the presentation tonight just by highlighting some of the key items, and then we'll drill down into some of the details of the project. The first is just noting that this property is located in the Light Industrial Zone District, and as Vlad has mentioned, convenience stores and fuel stations are uses of right within that zone district. And so what that means is basically that those are permitted outright. There are no conditional use permits or other types of permits required. You can apply for a building permit for those types of uses. The fuel storage that we are proposing is actually underground, and that is important because the standards that the county has that we'll be demonstrating compliance with today are largely for above ground storage. So there aren't a lot of underground storage standards, but there are above ground storage standards. And so there was an administrative interpretation made that the storage standards would apply to us regardless of if we were storing underground or above ground. And so what you'll see is you'll see demonstration with the above ground standards. And so that's why I'm pointing that out here, because you may think I'm confused, and we actually just are actually citing what's in code. There are no environmental concerns with the property in terms of there being wetlands, floodplains, those types of concerns, no riparian areas. We are located in an area where other commercial and light industrial uses and services exist. The agencies with the jurisdiction over above ground storage have approved or have standards which the owner can or will comply with. So again, we're being held to the above ground storage standards, so that's why I'm noting that. All other underground or non-storage related standards will be evaluated with that future site plan and building permit application, as well as with individual permits that will be issued by the respective agencies. And we'll go into an overview of what those permits will be tonight. We will be served by utilities and road improvements that will be extended at the cost of the owner. We're not going to drill down into that a lot because, again, it's not the subject of the hearing tonight, but just something to be aware of. And then taxes and fees will be paid to mitigate any specific service and infrastructure impacts. So again, just a quick recap of where we're located in the right outside the Hauser community. And you can see Highway 53 and West High Prairie Road there. Again, the existing physical environment, we're generally flat, but we do have steep slopes on the north and the west sides of the property, no environmental constraints, and we're not over any type of a hydric soil. This is a quick little project description. So this is our site plan, and this shows you that we have an approximately 6,000 square foot convenience store. We'll have standard fuel pumps and RV fuel pumps and underground fuel storage. And in the narrative, I kind of did a deep dive into where everything was located because it's really, there are some site standards that apply in the county code. And so it's really hard to go in and read the little tiny font and kind of figure out where everything is relative to that. So that's why that's broken out in the narrative. For tonight's presentation, because again, we're focused a little bit more on storage, what we're going to talk about is a little bit more about fuel use and storage and safety features of the project. And so with that, just a listing of some of the items that are important. So the first is that we'll have a fuel pump island. And this will be a 40-foot by 164-foot concrete slab with a roof. There will be fire extinguishers at every other pump. We'll have an 82-foot DuraSlope trench drain, which will be connected to 50 linear feet of solid wall HDPE per the manufacturer's specs. And that will be located south of the convenience store. Then we'll have an RV pump island, which is similar. We'll be on a 40 by 94 concrete slab. We'll have 94 feet of NDS DuraSlope trench drain connected to 175 feet of solid wall HDPE per the manufacturer's specifications. So this is to the east of the convenience store. We'll have an underground fuel tank refill island, and that is 28 feet by 80 feet. It will be on a concrete or under a concrete slab. And within that, we'll have corrosion resistance fiberglass tanks per manufacturer's specifications. And those tanks will be underground, and they'll be set back 50 feet or greater from the property lines. And you can actually look at the site plan that we provided for you. And that's item number 5 on the site plan, shows you where that will be located. So with that, down in the lower right, you can actually see a depiction of what those tanks will look like. We'll also have oil water separators. We'll have 2, and those will be 1,000 gallons each, and those will be per manufacturer's specifications. And those will be southwest of the RV pump island and south of the fuel pump island. We'll also have emergency fuel shutoff switch, 2 switches actually, and those will be on the southwest and southeast sides of the convenience store. So those are overflow switches if there's some kind of overflow happening and allows you to shut off the pump. We'll also have a water storage tank and hydrant, and that'll be a 30,000 gallon tank, 1,500 gallon per minute pump, and then a hydrant with a storage adapter. So the storage adapter is so that the local fire department can connect to that and use the equipment that they have. So again, these are the items that we're highlighting because they really seem to be related the most to the storage and then some of the safety features that are a part of that. And so, you know, again, just some depictions there to show you what those might look like. And we'll talk a little bit later about how the county standards apply to these items. So again, this is an overview of the oh, look, I've got a little red pointer. So this right here is that is the storage island. So just to recap again, we're located in a light industrial zoning district. Vlad hit on this already, but all of the properties that look like they don't have any zoning on those are actually overlain with a light gray color. And so not just our property, but the properties without are zoned light industrial. And then you can see the red is commercial, and then as we move to the east, we see just parcel data because that is located within City of Hauser, and the county zoning map doesn't include information on the City of Hauser. So just to recap, the purpose of the light industrial zone district is a zoning district in which land has been found to be suitable for manufacturing, processing of a non-nuisance nature. It's to encourage the development of manufacturing and wholesale businesses that are clean, quiet, and free of noise, odor, dust, and smoke. And then Kootenai County Code actually states that any commercial manufacturing or industrial use that complies with specific performance standards would be allowed in that district. So given that, this use would be permitted outright as long as we can comply with all of the standards. And I have given you a detailed breakdown in the narrative of how we comply with all of those standards, even though they're not really the subject of the meeting tonight. And the reason that I did that is just to be able to show you that this is a project that is feasible. We can meet the other standards that apply outside of the storage standards. So with that, we move to the Kootenai County Code, their actual above ground storage standards. So the first is that the zone that above ground storage is permitted in, and again, we know we're doing underground, but this is the administrative interpretation, is that we need to abide by this, is that the storage would need to be in a light industrial or industrial zone district. So again, we're zoned light industrial. We need to have a minimum area of 5 acres, and we exceed the minimum lot size. The setbacks will be in accordance with the current fire and safety codes and cannot be less than 50 feet from any property line. So you can see from the site plan where item number 5 is located, we're sufficiently set back more than 50 feet from any property line. All such facilities will be contained within a site obscuring fence, not less than 6 feet in height, or site obscuring evergreen trees or compact hedges. And all landscaping will require adequate sprinkling systems. So again, because we're underground, we don't see this as being applicable, but I do note here and note in the narrative that Kootenai County Code does have some use, compatible use, and frontage buffer standards that we do have to adhere to. And so our site plan that we have submitted does adhere to those, and those do provide for some additional visual buffering from both the roadways as well as a compatible use buffer at the back of the property. The next time, oops, I skipped forward there. Let me see if I can move back. Maybe not. Okay. All such uses will be located or designed with full consideration of their proximity to adjacent uses, effect on adjacent property, and reduction of their inherent dangerous factors. So again, we're moving this underground. We're setting this back a good distance from the property line. Sorry. Okay, all such facilities within 300 feet of the property line of any parcel located within a residential zone shall have a maximum vertical height. So again, this isn't applicable. All such facilities shall conform to the standards prescribed by the National Fire Protection Association, American Petroleum Institute, Panhandle Health District, and other agencies with jurisdiction. We also need to comply with the Kootenai County best management practices for containing critical materials during above ground storage and handling. So we will comply with all of those. This owner does have other fuel stations in the cities of Kootenai County as well as in Kootenai County, and does abide by these standards already. We have reviewed the standards and we're familiar with them, and basically they're best management practices for how you do spill prevention, those types of things if you have a fuel spill. The use of the exact type of product that we're proposing is also the product that is recommended for use. So that double-walled corrosion-resistant tank. The next item, the board may require the posting of a performance bond and a guarantee. And we do understand that this could be a potential requirement. So with that, moving on to the agency comments, I've separated the agency comments into the items that are related to above ground storage and those that are really not related to above ground storage, but that we'll be working with in the future. So at this point in time, we've had comments that have come in from Panhandle Health District that the underground storage tanks basically saying that they're regulated by DEQ, and DEQ will be regulating those in the future at the time that we come in with a building permit. And they have statements related to their jurisdiction over fuel pads and then also a critical materials application. And a critical materials application, I do have a copy of that here for you, but it's basically a quantity registry of the types of hazardous materials that you have at the site, and you're lodging, you're basically providing that information to Panhandle Health so that they have that on record. As far as agency comments is not related to above ground storage, we have the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality made comments related to the state requirements for underground storage tanks and the groundwater quality rules. So again, they're aware of the location of this, they're aware of this being over the aquifer. There are other fuel storage facilities that are over the aquifer, and basically their requirement is that we abide by their requirements because they do have rules and regulations to address this. Panhandle Health District is really the same situation where they had comments related to above ground storage tanks, septic, public water systems, and food applications. So again, because we'll have a convenience store, we'll have food handlers, applications, things like that. So these are all things that we'll be addressing in the future. The Idaho Department of Water Resources had comments related to water rights and well drilling requirements, which again will abide by with well drilling. Post Falls Highway District had comments related to queuing concerns at High Prairie Road. We will need to have an approach permit from Post Falls Highway District, and so we'll be working through that with the Highway District. The Idaho Department of Transportation made comments related to our existing approach permit, and we did go ahead and we renewed that approach permit, and so it's no longer pending expiration. We have a reissued permit at this point in time. And Kootenai County Building had comments related to future building permit applications. Keep going the wrong way. So with that, we just thought it would be good to cover quickly the required agency permits. This may not be a completely exhaustive list, but this is just to demonstrate when it comes to some of these other concerns that are out there. These are the types of permits and permitting authorities that will be regulating other aspects of this project. So we have a Kootenai County, which will have a building permit, a site disturbance permit, and a sign permit. The Idaho Department of Transportation approach permit, which we already have. But if we were to work through any additional improvements, any revisions, we would continue working with them on that. Post Falls Highway District, as I mentioned, an approach permit. Panhandle Health District will need a septic permit, food service license, critical materials permit, which again, that critical materials is the inventory of what we have on site. The Idaho Department of Water Resources will need water rights and well drilling permit, and the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality will need underground fuel storage tank registration and a public water system permit. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our attorney, and he just has a few comments that he plans to make.
Good evening. My name is Greg Embry. I'm an attorney here in Coeur d'Alene at Hawley Troxel. And just like to make two quick points, one of which staff has done a good job at outlining already, and that is as to the public comments that are already in the record. The majority of those simply have no tie-in to the criteria applicable to above-ground storage tanks. Those are also understandable reactions to the application, but they simply are not relevant in terms of considering the applicable criteria. There have been comments regarding similar uses in the area, traffic concerns, the aquifer, et cetera. And we're mindful of those, but they simply are not germane to the analysis of this conditional use permit. It may be worth mentioning, however, that as to traffic, we've been for some time working diligently on that subject, although it is not involved in any of the criteria that apply this evening. We have met several times with ITD. We have incorporated their comments into our site plan so that we're more prepared down the road after this evening. We've made attempts to solicit input from Pulse Hall's Highway District, and much of that understandably culminated in, well, we really can't engage meaningfully with you until you have your CUP and you come back for your approach permit. And that leads us to tonight. And so we would respectfully request that the analysis of the CUP do remain restricted to those applicable, only those criteria applicable to above ground storage tanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just in conclusion tonight, the property owner has reviewed all of the conditions of approval of the staff report and is in agreement with the conditions. So with that, they are requesting approval of this CUP for storage, petroleum storage.
Thank you. I also have Sean Messner. I apologize for not being able to read certain handwriting properly. Applicant may wish to speak.
I don't believe I need to at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. And Merle Van Houten, applicant may wish to speak.
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. And Dave Jagra? Nagra.
Not at this time.
Okay. So now we'll get into public comment. I have Jim Imthern in favor, may wish to speak.
Don't need to.
Okay, thank you. Jaden Nagra in favor, does not wish to speak. Ranver Nagra in favor, does not wish to speak. And neutral, I have Brad Porter, neutral, may wish to speak.
Not at this time.
Cindy Rose, neutral, does not wish to speak. Christy Dion, neutral, does not wish to speak. And the opposed, Joe Friedrichs, opposed, may wish to speak. Sean Fredericks, opposed, may wish to speak.
I have a question.
Why don't you come up and state your name and address and ask your question?
Shawnee Fredericks, 38-151 West Cinderella Court. My question is, so if we're not allowed to speak onto the gas station that's going to be built if these tanks are approved, doesn't that have to be stopped so that the gas station cannot be built?
Well,
So how do we speak to that?
you've heard them say that a gas station is approved by right. It's one of the land uses that is already in the code for light industrial. So perhaps Director Callahan would like to say when there may be an opportunity for you to express concern about that.
Madam Hearing Examiner, the only way that I know of to get to the speaker's point is they would need to make a cogent argument now as to why the underground tanks are impermissible and don't meet code.
So in other words, when it goes forward to Panhandle Health and DEQ and the building department, there's no further opportunity at those points for public comment.
That's correct, but please stay mindful that this item continues to the Board of County Commissioners, and everyone in the audience would have another opportunity to speak then, but it would also be limited then to just the underground storage tanks.
Yeah.
So would the storage tanks affect our property? We are the only residential property touching where they're speaking about.
Probably, I would say, a matter of judgment, whether it's going to impact your property values or the use of your property. They're going to be underground, as they've stated, but I'll let them address that in rebuttal. Okay? Oh, dear. Megan Strong? Is that close? Megan what? Staney. Opposed may wish to speak. No. Okay. Marcy Costin, opposed, may wish to speak. Okay. Sunpreet Singh, opposed, may wish to speak. Okay. Jake Borisma, opposed, may wish to speak.
My name is Jake Boardsma. I live at 8091 North Perpetua Lane, which is right off of High Prairie Road. One question, in the future, is a traffic survey going to be done of where High Prairie meets Highway 53 and the congestion that's going to be enormously brought to our area?
Director Callahan, do you want to comment?
Again, as before, a by right use means that there's no further review other than a building permit. And so, no, there would not typically be an impact study for by right use. Now, my cohort reminds me of something else I can explain that may be useful for our attendees tonight, and that is that any decision we make is appealable, as you know, to the hearing examiner and then the Board of County Commissioners. So one could argue that we've misinterpreted the code and appeal our decision and take that route. But I frankly think the plain English language of the code is pretty clear in this case.
Okay, I understand the by right use of that property, but now you're using High Prairie Road as an entry exit. And that is our only way in and out of our residential area. And now that's going to be used for this business. So another question is, all the eastbound traffic from Washington that passes by, are they going to be able to enter this business from Highway 53, or is it strictly off High Prairie?
We'll let the applicant address those when they come up for rebuttal, I think.
Okay.
Because that's their issue. Okay?
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Barry McCord, opposed, may wish to speak.
I'm Barry McCord. I live next to Jake there on Perpetua Lane in Hauser. Off of High Prairie is our main concern. we've been up there about 8 years. The traffic was nothing like it was today. Of course, there's building going on through the valley and the prairie, and the traffic on 53 is exploded exponentially. There's an outline to widen 53 and make, bring in even more people to support the housing and so forth. But there didn't seem to be any time. I mean, there's some timelines out there for that, starting in spring of 25. But is this, is the hopes of this gas station going to be before that, right in the middle of that, sometime after that when the project's done in 27? I just have never seen anything on timing of your gas station. So that would be one question, but our main thing on High Prairie, and everybody on the road, whether they're here or not today, is unanimously concerned about our access to that road. We come down there just with the increased volume that we've had with the growth, and we're waiting, I mean, there's no end to the cars, right? So if and you guys all have experienced growth of this nature somewhere, I'm sure. But adding this at the time when they're going to tear up all the roads and do all these, I think the timing is just really odd. And I don't think that entrance to 53 off of High Prairie Road is going to be safe. There's going to be people just waiting too long. They're going to get antsy. They're going to try to get out without some sort of buildup around there. Maybe we need a left turn lane on our little High Prairie with a road to get off of 53, but at least let people that need to take a right, because High Prairie is going to back way up around that corner. And so that's just a safety concern. I think there's also a bus stop that occurs right in there every day. There's some kids that wait there, and they need that access. So that's all gravel. I don't know who's going to start using that now too, right? So I guess that's the main concern. It's just safety and just trying to mitigate the inconvenience of this. I mean.
Okay, that was your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Molly Seberg, opposed, may wish to speak. Henry Stover, opposed, may wish to speak.
No, everything's been said that I would refer to. I don't want to speak.
Okay. Karen Atkins, opposed, may wish to speak. Roger Atkins, opposed, may wish to speak. Lorena Stover, opposed, may wish to speak. Sue McCord, opposed, does not wish to speak. Dean Seberg, opposed, does not wish to speak. That's all the comment sheets I have here. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
Madam Hearing Examiner, we have 4 people on Zoom. I can
Okay.
call them one by one. Arwen, if you would like to speak to this matter, go ahead and unmute yourself and speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. So since we're only speaking about fuel storage, I do have a concern.
Could I have your name and address for the record,
sorry.
please?
Sure. Arwen Ganaway, 8688 North Vogt Road, VOGT Road, just off of High Prairie.
Thank you.
Okay. So my main concern is as well, and because we're only talking about fuel storage, is there is a small natural spring on High Prairie, just above Cinderella Road. And per the EPA, I do believe that there is a range limit of how close you can be to a natural spring. There's water that comes up there in small amounts all year round. And I do worry about it being next to 50,000 gallons of fuel.
Okay. Is that all?
We have Butch and Peggy.
That's all I have if we're only talking about storage tanks, yes.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Butch and Peggy Harrison, it's your turn. If you'd like to speak, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Name and address for the
Okay.
record.
My name is Harold Harrison. My nickname is Butch. My address is 8057 North Vote Road. Our concern is with the higher demand of highway use on 53 and all the turning movements that we probably need to have a left turn pocket for eastbound and probably maybe an XL, decel lane for westbound. Otherwise, all the skid marks that are currently in front of the existing gas station are just going to get worse.
Okay, thank you for your input.
Kiera, if you'd like to speak, go ahead and unmute your mic and speak. Kiera, going once. Oh, there she is. She's unmuted, but she hasn't spoke.
Kara, do you wish to give testimony?
Going once.
Not hearing anything. We're going to say thanks for being with us.
If you get your microphone figured out, we can come back. Kim Johnson, if you would like to speak, go ahead and mute yourself. Madam Hearing Examiner, that is all the people on Zoom.
All right. Then it's back to our applicant for rebuttal.
Okay, so I'm going to have Sean come up and talk about traffic. In the meanwhile, there were a few questions. One was related to impacts to property values. And in terms of an underground storage tank being located on a nearby property, I'm not an expert in that field, so I can't tell you. The logical side of my brain, though, and I do work a lot with property and have over close to 3 decades now, is that, and have been involved with a lot of review of appraisals and things like that over the years. But generally where you see storage tanks devaluing property is when they're found on a property and they have to be removed, and there's a cost to removal and the potential contamination from that. As far as impact to the actual value of the property, I think the more inherent component to value is what's planned for the property, which is the convenience store and the associated fueling tanks. So again, those can be there regardless of if the storage is above ground or below ground. So I don't see, a significant impact to property values based on the underground storage component to adjacent property values. We had another, sorry, I'm just looking through my notes here. I want to be sure that I address everything. As far as the spring, I'm not sure where the location of the spring is. It sounds like it was probably off-site. I do know that when Panhandle Health District goes through permitting, they will look at soils and they'll look at a variety of other things. And with that, for example, if you're putting in a septic system, They will evaluate the distance of your septic system from any type of a spring or, underground water, above ground water. So I think that's going to be a part of this permitting that we're going to be going through regardless, is the agencies will be looking at their standards related to any types of setbacks. So again, I'm not sure where that spring is at. It doesn't sound like it's on this property. Most of the setbacks that I've seen, even with sanitary septic, will range anywhere from, I believe, about 25 or probably about 50 feet to about 300, depending on the type of stream it is, and that's for on-site septic and drain fields, which again are more about treatment. You're directly discharging something that has a very minimal level of treatment into the ground, whereas here, we're putting these into corrosion-resistant, engineered tanks. So again, there will be state agencies, they will have standards for that. But I'm not sure, I don't know, I have no knowledge of the stream, so I really can't address it any further than that. I think that's it for me, and then I'm going to go ahead and let Sean stand up and address the traffic.
I have a question before you get down.
Sure.
With regard to the material in the case file, you indicated there would be leak detection systems. So you showed us the cutoff, but
Yeah.
can you describe how those work and where they are?
You know what, let me go back and I'll pull up the site plan and get that information. And if we can let Sean talk, then I'll come back and speak to it here in a minute.
Good evening. Sean Messner with CivTech, live in Spokane Valley. Just wanted to talk about some of the traffic concerns that have been raised tonight. The configuration of the intersection at High Prairie and Highway 53, there isn't a turn lane right now, either from High Prairie or from Highway 53 itself. As part of what we've been coordinating with ITD, we've been working through the configurations on Highway 53 with them. Part of what we are proposing through the traffic and what we're coordinating with in terms of timing with ITD is for that center left turn lane so people can turn from Highway 53 to High Prairie. We're also looking at coordinating with them for an acceleration lane so that people that want to make a left from High Prairie to Highway 53, they're really just navigating between the through traffic and left turning traffic. There'll be an acceleration lane that they can pull into and accelerate up to speed before merging onto Highway 53. ITD recently installed some of those further to the east on the highway itself. There was a comment about an acceleration lane for High Prairie if they want to turn right and head into Washington. We've also been coordinating with ITD on that to address that issue as well. And we hear the concern about queuing, and that's why some of these improvements that we're proposing with our site plan and coordinating with the agencies, that's why we're making the concerted effort, because that acceleration lane would help reduce the queuing. Both acceleration lanes that I just talked about would help with that. On High Prairie, we were looking at the potential of widening that to have a left turn and a right turn lane. So that just as I think it was the gentleman previously mentioned that there'd be a right turn lane for people to move, onwards. So we're very attuned to that. We've already prepared a traffic study, and we will be doing that even further when we go and coordinate with Post Falls Highway District for any kind of access permit access there. They're also concerned about queuing, as we mentioned, and so we're working with them as we evaluate that to make sure that the improvements that we're installing or proposing not only help to address the traffic concerns, but help improve the safety. The situation out there today will be improved when the turn lanes are installed. Right now, there's nowhere for people to veer off the roadway if someone's trying to make a left turn today. And so we realize that and understand that, and that's part of our evaluation that we've completed up to this point. I will say that as part of the underground facility, it's not really required, but we have started looking at that because we hear the concerns. Let me see if I've forgotten anything else there. Just want to make sure. In terms of the timing for the improvements with ITD, we also don't know, but we do want to coordinate with them so that if we move first and we're installing anything first, we're not tearing it back up and vice versa. So as part of our site plan development, as we continue forward, we're going to coordinate with them so that there's no, we're not tearing up new pavement. I think oh, okay, one more thing, sorry. I heard that there is a bus stop that might be at the bottom of the hill here. I don't know about that. I'll take a further look at that to see and confirm if there is that bus stop there, where it's located at. There may be something that we can look at in terms of evaluation to help with that situation.
Could I speak to that? My son waits for the bus down there. It's Lakeland School District bus stop at the bottom where it joins High Prairie to Highway 53.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will look into that.
Thank you.
Lakewood School District.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over.
Lakeland School District.
Thank you.
The Stella Bathroom School.
With that, I'll turn it over to Merle.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Merle Van Houten. Address is 401 Sherman Avenue, Coeur d'Alene. I'm the civil engineer on the project and wanted to just address some of the questions about about monitoring an emergency shutoff that you posed. So I'll start with the Idaho Administrative Code, IDAPA 58.0107, rules regulating underground storage tank systems. So, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with IDAPA code, but this particular section, you know, lays out the requirements for underground storage treatment systems. I'll just cite a couple of places here. Each new or existing UST, underground storage tank, or piping installed or replaced after February 2007 will have secondary containment and be monitored for leaks in accordance with big long section of code. If the new or replaced UST or piping is within 1,000 feet of any existing public drinking water system or any existing potable drinking water well, at a minimum, the secondary containment systems must be designed, constructed, and installed to contain regulated substances released from the tank system until they are detected and removed. And there's another section that applies to same kind of criteria if the owner installs within 1 year a potable drinking water system well at the new facility. So safe to say that, you know, these tanks will be double encased and be equipped with monitoring systems per IDAPA code. Now, as far as the fuel pumps go, there's another section that says each installation of a new motor fuel dispenser system will include under dispenser spill containment if the new dispenser is within 1,000 feet of any existing public drinking water system. So we are aware of that. We are prepared to go through the regulatory processes with IDEQ and PhD to comply with those. With a little bit more detail into the question you posed regarding the shutoff system, we have these monitoring panels that we've been researching, and we will probably spec out one that is very similar to this. Just quickly describes it as a state-of-the-art tank monitoring system providing leak detection, fuel density monitoring, pressurized line leak detection, inventory reports, and remote access to system alarms. So, that remote access is, telemetry that will alert, the operator that there is a problem. It goes straight to their computer or cell phone for immediate information. So, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Okay. Then that concludes our hearing this evening on case number CUP24-0005, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.